Now, when it comes to taking photographs of strangers, the two biggest factors that hold a lot of photographers back are confidence and speed. And these go hand in hand to some extent, one kind of helps the other. Now, for me, the difference between a good street photographer and an average street photographer isn't just about talent, it's also about how confident they are when they're working and how quickly and efficiently they can take their photographs. So how do we build speed and confidence quickly when we're out on the street? You know, a lot of photographers don't like taking photographs of strangers on the street, really. They find it quite fearful. And a lot of this fear comes from trying to shoot in a style that they're just not comfortable with, especially when they first start out. If your comfort zone on the street is standing on a street corner waiting for people to walk through that scene, this is where you start. This is actually where I started. You have to give yourself lots of positive experiences when you're on the street because that leads to confidence, and confidence leads to losing the fear. And when you lose the fear, which you will, you can really start to progress as a street photographer. And if you're in a hurry and you want to build your confidence up very quickly, one of the best ways of gaining really positive experiences is to go out on the street with a confident, experienced street photographer. There's a safety in numbers aspect here, obviously, which helps with the fear, but watching an experienced photographer will help you to realize that most of the fear is in the mind and not actually on the street.
I did trample over me. Well, I hope you have a fantastic afternoon. See you later.
This is very basic, but if you're on the street and you're always checking your camera or you're always messing about with the menu or the functions, the chances are you're going to be missing photographs, and the whole process of taking pictures will become very slow, and unfortunately slow photographers do attract a lot of attention. You need to be completely at ease with your camera to the point where you almost don't think about it. It's almost like the camera is secondary to the actual photograph. Now, if you aren't at the point where this is all second nature to you, go out and practice. You know, you don't have to go out on the street to practice. Go and take your kids out into the park or take your dog for a walk. Just get used to the menus, get used to the functions, get used to the way that the camera works. Get it set up to how you like it. I'm amazed at how many photographers don't actually set their cameras up to how they actually want to shoot. And if you own several cameras, choose one for street and kind of stick with that if you can. Don't chop and change cameras all the time. It just leads to confusion. I've done this and missed some really good photographs as a result of me messing around changing cameras all the time. I have photographs which years later I still talk about as the ones that got away. Now, when you're on the street, don't take too much gear with you. It's heavy, and again, too much choice leads to indecision, and that can slow you down. One camera body, one spare camera body, and maybe one or two lenses. That's all you need to take street photographs. But don't forget the batteries and the spare cards, because again, I've been there and I've done that. And when you're looking for a battery that you forgot to pack in your camera bag, it's not a good place to be, I can tell you. I make no apologies for making this point once more on this channel. I think this is a really important point to make, so I'll keep making it. You know, as long as I've got this YouTube channel, I'll keep making this point. Always shoot for yourself. Never shoot for those anonymous people scrolling your Instagram account while sitting on the toilet first thing in the morning. Social media can absolutely decimate any confidence that you have in your photography. Social media is a weird thing. Algorithms put pictures in front of people, and those people may or may not like what you do. And social media leaves you wide open to people having a say on your photographs, even though you've never met them before and you'll probably never meet them ever again. So put your photographs up, answer any comments that you might get, and ignore everything else. You know, certainly don't put any stock in the numbers of people liking your pictures, and ignore anybody on social media who bleats on about how you should be taking street photographs. You know, just ignore those people. It's always the least talented people that seem to have the biggest voices. Photographers like to copy other photographers. I don't know why, it's kind of a weird thing that we have. We see a photograph that somebody else has shot, we like to go and try and take the same photograph, okay? That's, you know, it just seems to be something that photographers do. But trying to do this, trying to copy somebody else's photograph or somebody else's style, is a completely pointless exercise. It's a distraction. The problem is that you'll spend time and effort while you're out on the street trying to find these photographs which you've seen on Instagram or in books. And in the meantime, you're missing all these other photographs that you would naturally be drawn to if you just let your eye do what it wants to do and be drawn to the things it wants to be drawn to. You have to spend the time on the street working with moments that catch your eye. You have to work with things that stimulate the visual side of your brain, and then you have to work out the methods which you'll use in order to get those photographs quickly and effortlessly. Don't spend your time out on the street trying to be a facsimile of somebody else. It doesn't work. It will never work. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be influenced by photographers. By all means, go and buy the books, go to the exhibitions. You will subconsciously soak up a lot of the visual information within those photographs anyway, and this will end up filtering through into your work over time as a matter of course, but it will do this in a way that will complement what you already do. Now, things like expensive clothes, shoes, watches and camera bags will always attract attention, but we're street photographers. We don't really want to attract attention to ourselves. So unless you are someone who specifically wants to fill your Instagram feed with lots of beautiful selfies of you and your gear, always dress down. Wear something practical and appropriate to the conditions that you'll be photographing in, and think about what happens if the weather is due to change. And a little tip here, we always carry a packable waterproof jacket with us, something that fits in our camera bag, so that we always have something which will keep us dry if it rains, and an extra layer if it starts to drop in temperature. And don't forget your feet. Good shoes are absolutely essential to street photographers. They will determine whether or not we have aching backs and sore knees at the end of a long day. Now, these shoes don't have to be expensive as long as they fit properly and as long as they give support and cushioning to the foot. You're pretty much good to go. What we do is we tend to find a brand and style we like, and we tend to stick with those. Now, when we take our cameras out onto the street, it's absolutely essential that we know what we can and can't do in our own countries with regard to taking photographs of people in a public place. And this also applies to things like GDPR and publishing. We're street photographers. We have to know what the law is. How can we confidently take photographs somewhere if we don't know if we're going to be breaking the law or not? And yet I'm absolutely amazed at how many street photographers simply have no clue about what they can and can't do on the street. And if I had £1 for every comment that I had on this YouTube channel about the legality of what we're doing as street photographers, I'd be a very rich man. So there are a lot of people out there who simply do not know what the law is. Please go and find out. Learning to read body language is such an important part of street photography, but it's something that nobody really ever mentions. We're literally taking photographs of other human beings. We should have a basic understanding of how different people might behave when there's a camera pointed in their direction. But so many photographers go blazing into a scene and end up getting shouted at because they completely misread the situation. And learning to avoid certain people and certain situations is one thing that will help your confidence grow. And in order to do this, what we have to do is concentrate less on the camera and more on our visual senses. We've got to be looking at the scene all of the time. We've got to be assessing what's happening in front of us all the time. And we can't do that if we're fixated on our cameras. So the next time that you're out, and you don't have to have a camera with you, just walk up and down a street and just take in what's happening, take in what people are saying to each other. And I would thoroughly recommend that everybody tries this. If you're not used to actually reading a scene, just go and do this. Just go and walk up and down streets and just look at human beings, look at the way that they talk to each other and they act with each other.